Welcome to the first episode of my Classic Courses series here on my Expat Animator channel. But what are classic courses? Basically, these are courses that I created going all the way back to 2019 that were to share knowledge I had found in creating my own personal project animations. So they're animation-related courses, and I want to bring them to this channel. Although I wasn't new to making videos and editing videos at the time, I was new to recording myself and all of the problems that come with trying to record yourself. Things like lighting, cameras, soundproofing a room, microphones, recording your screen, using green screens, and more. I was new to all of these things, and it'll show in these videos. These are all still things that I struggle with 5 years later, but hopefully I've learned a thing or two about making my own videos since I filmed these courses. So with that in mind, the camera angles, the lighting, the audio quality, these things aren't going to be the greatest quality, but I think the content still stands up. And I think there's stuff to learn here, so I want to share these with everybody. I've retired these courses and they're not available anywhere else online, so this would be the place to watch them. I've got 13 courses in all, and I'm going to be sharing them all here on this channel over the next few months. I've created a new playlist here on my Expat Animator channel called Classic Courses, and eventually you'll see all the videos there. I just need some time to edit them and get them all posted up here on YouTube. So let's go back in time and watch a younger version of myself teach you about my custom animation tool, the Animation Production Checklist. Creating an animation takes a lot of work. Are you thinking of starting your first animated project? Maybe you started working on one, but never were able to finish it. In this class, I will show you my most important tool to get your animated project done. My name is Patrick Davidson. I am an expat living in Central America, and I am also an animator. I've completed a lot of animated projects over the last 20 years. Some with friends, some for clients, and some completely by myself. So I know what needs to be done to complete an animation from idea to final product. My most important tool is always my Animation Production Checklist, or APC for short. In this class, I will teach you what it is, why you need one, how to use it with clients, and more. Our class project will have you work on your own APC and prepare you for your next animation. This class is for anyone thinking of starting their own animation project, either by themselves or with a small team. I look forward to seeing you in class. Let's talk about class requirements. For this class, you will need a printer to print the APC. Beginners will find the most value here, but professionals can add this tool to their kits as well. We will cover the following: what an APC is, how to use an APC, why you should use an APC. We'll take a deep dive into how to use an APC. We'll also look at how to use an APC with the client. And as a bonus, I will be giving some of my project tips. These are the tips I have learned from dozens of animated projects. You can learn from my mistakes and save yourself countless hours of frustration. Next, we will go over our class project. For our class project, you will start your animation project using my APC. You will print out my APC PDF and learn how to adjust it for your project. Your assignment will be to fill it out and check off the first checkbox, officially starting your own animated project. What is an APC? An APC, or Animation Production Checklist, is a one-page PDF that I created to help me complete my animated projects. This document has evolved for me over time. Basically, it is a table with 18 columns for each stage of your animated project. The 3 rows are the due date, notes, and complete checkbox. The current incarnation has 18 stages. Think of these as goals to accomplish to see your animation come to life. The order of these stages is important. I think it is a good idea to only work on one stage at a time. When you complete a stage, you can grab a big Sharpie pen and draw an X over the complete box at the bottom of the appropriate column. Remember to print out the APC and hang it on your wall near your animation desk where you can see it every day. We will go into more detail on how to use your APC in the next video. Let's talk about how to use an APC. By now, you should be familiar with what an APC is. Now, I'll show you how to use one. First, go download the PDF called Animation Production Checklist.pdf. This file is built at 17 by 11 inches, but can be printed to scale down onto an 11 by 8.5 inch sheet. Just remember to print horizontally, not vertically. Now, fill in your project name and either your name, your studio name, or your client's name in the client's name line. Now, by design, the first stage is easy as you probably already have your idea chosen. So fill in today's date under the due date in the first column and mark an X on that complete checkbox. Nice job! You have already finished 5% of the APC. Look at column number 2, Design Characters. If you have already done this work, you can mark that complete as well. When you reach a column you have not completed yet, it is time to hang it on your wall near your desk. I recommend only filling in the due date for the next column. If you try and fill in the due date for all of the columns at once, you're going to stress yourself out, so it's better to just give yourself one due date at a time, unless you're working with a client and they want all of the due dates written up beforehand. Next, we are going to see why you should use an APC. Let's talk about why you should use an APC. Seeing it every day will keep you on track. There are times when you're working on your animation that you want to skip ahead to work on a fun scene, or maybe you feel like recording voices before you have a finalized script. You are better off sticking to the order of your APC and working the stages in the correct order. There will always be time to go back at the revision stage to clean up pieces you might not be happy with. Trust me, it's better to have a first cut of your animation done than no cut at all. It helps to motivate you when you get down. Animation is a long process. You will most likely get unmotivated at some stage of the process. When this happens, you can always look at your APC and see the progress you have already made. Feel proud of the progress you have made. Most people never even attempt a project with the scope of creating an animation. So take a look at your APC, find the stage that you're at, and get back to work. It shows others the amount of work involved in animation. An APC is a good tool to show potential partners or clients all of the stages of work involved. Maybe they have never worked on an animation before and don't realize the amount of labor that is needed. It gives a good overview of the work that needs to be done. You will feel a sense of accomplishment when it is completed. When you finally reach the end of your project, you can check off that final complete box and celebrate your hard work. Just glancing at your completed APC will make you feel a sense of accomplishment. You most likely will have spent months working on this project, and to see your APC finished will fill you with pride. Welcome to the deep dive of our APC. I'm going to show you how I use the APC on one of my own projects. For example, we'll use Trep, my animation, as our example animation. So let's get to it. So up here we've got Animation Production Checklist.pdf. The first thing I want to do is I want to right click it and I want to duplicate it. And then I'm going to rename this so that I've got the name of the project behind it. Okay, so now I'm going to open this. You can use any PDF reader you want. I'm going to open it with the Max Preview. And I'm just going to come up here and go View, Single Page, and then we're going to be able to see the whole document at one time. And you can see as I roll my mouse over here, you can see that this is a fillable form. So we can type in our information, or we could print it out and fill it in by hand. So for this demonstration, I'm going to do this digitally. So let's click in the first form here. Project name, I'm going to type Trep. And then I can either mouse over and click here, or I can hit the tab key and brings me over to client's name. And in this, I'm just going to put my name because it's my own project. You would put your client's name there if you were working with a client on their project. We can go ahead and tab again, and it brings us to the first due dates box. And today is the 2nd, so I'm going to give myself 7 days. So let's put this at 4/9 and tab. So that means that I've given myself a week to create the idea. But actually, I've already got my idea. So what we can do is we'll put today's date, 4/2, and if we had any notes, we could type them in here. I'm just going to write in, I already have my idea. And then I can come down here and I can check the complete box. So this whole column is now done. And that's why normally when you start this, you might have your idea already begun, and you can basically get rid of 5% of your work of the animation production checklist right off the bat. So then we'll go over to design characters, and you may or may not have this done. Let's say that I have it done, so I'm just going to put today's date as well. And you know, you don't have to put anything in the notes. It's more of an area if you have some ideas that you need to get written down and want to keep them here with your timeline of your production list. And so let's go ahead and check that as well. And so the main goal you're trying to get to is to complete all of these checkboxes, because by the time you've done that, it means you've gotten your final output. It's distributed. You're done with your project. And this is how you keep on track for your animation, because it's going to take you a while to complete your animation from start to finish. So let's just say that I have not written my script yet. So I'm going to give myself a month to write the script. So I might put 5/2 or even 5/1. Let's just say I want it by the 1st of the next month. And if I had any notes out here, I could write those down. Or say if my client had some notes, that he's reading to me over the phone or in a meeting, I could either write them here, like client wants to review script after 1 week. Whatever notes you want to put. And we have not completed the script yet, so we won't check that off. So at this stage, what I want to do is I want to save this, and we've renamed it with the name of our project. So we're not saving over the original animation production checklist, because we want to have that as a blank copy for our next project. So we can just come up here and save right here, and you can see now it's saved out. So we can print this, file print, and when we go to print it, you can see we want to just make sure that our preview window looks correct. If you click on the orientation, just make sure that everything fits. And ideally, we want to print this tabloid, and that's 11 by 17 inches. That if you have a printer that prints that large, which I do, I like to print this big and stick it on my wall. So I like to just click this to make sure you can view it in the correct orientation, and scale to fit. That should work. You can scale it down if you need to, and we're just going to print it. Now, say if you wanted to print it on a legal size of paper, it's going to resize it on its own, and you can see we could actually go from 75%, let's say 50%, and you can see what it's going to look like on that piece of paper. So 75% seems to work for this, and we could go print it onto a 8.5 by 11 sheet. Actually, I put legal, which is 8.5 by 14. I meant to do letter, but whatever paper you've got in your printer, we can just hit scale to fit, and it looks like 63% is what works for letter. So we would print that and then hang it on the wall. Now, I'm going to cancel this. If you wanted to send this to your client or other animators you might be working with, or a writer or whoever you're working with, at this stage you would just email them the PDF, which is here on the desktop. And it's a pretty small file size. We're looking at 111K, so kilobytes, so not too big. if you're working with a client, they might want all of these dates filled in at one time. So it's like, we've got 6 months or we've got a year, and how are we going to break up these stages to keep us on track so that we can meet our deadline, which might be a animation festival or a film festival or something that you want to get this into. You've got to keep on track, and that's why you would want to do your due dates all at once. If I'm working on a personal project, I don't like to fill these in at once, because I find that real work gets in the way of your personal project, and your timelines are harder to stick to, especially with animation. So you end up redoing these dates a lot. So I just take it one date at a time, and in this case, we've given ourselves a month to get the script written, and at that point we would save it. And once we've gotten the script written, we reopen this file and we would check it off, and then we give ourselves a new due date for the storyboard column. So real quick, I just want to kind of go over the different stages that come with making an animation. Ideally, you need an idea. That's create idea. You need to design your characters at that point, so you have an idea of how many characters you're dealing with and what they look like. I like to have the characters designed before I write the script, but because my script is constantly changing, even kind of during the production it can change, especially dialogue. But this is just the order I like to go in. You can make your own animation production checklist and rearrange the columns, and take columns out if you want, if you don't like them or you don't need them. And the other thing is, if you print this out and say your animation, there's no talking, it's just characters moving around, then you don't need voices. And this whole column, you just draw a big X through it, cross it out with a marker, and then you've got less work to do. So this is good to go over with your client at this stage, the very beginning, to say, look, these are our stages. We're going to create the idea, which ideally the client has that when he comes to you. And we need to design the characters. Then we need to write the script. Then we need to create a storyboard. Then I like to record the voices. And the reason I like to do it at this stage is so that our animatic has better timing. Because you can go straight from storyboard to animatic, but your timing of your animatic is not going to be as accurate without the voices. So we want to make sure that we've recorded our voices, at least a rough recording. You can just be you doing all the voices, but it'll at least get you your timing, and that's going to help you at this animatic stage, which in my opinion is very important, because this is kind of like seeing a rough cut of your film, and you can see what jokes are working or how timing is working, or you see a whole bunch of things, and you can make changes to you can go back, make changes to your script, make changes to the design of the characters, make changes in the storyboard phase to make another animatic. So you're gonna use this to kind of bounce back and forth between stages as you're progressing through your project. So once you get your animatic done, then you've got a test screening, and this is typically with just a few friends or people you're working on the project with. Your client can see it at this stage, especially important, because you don't want to start doing the grunt work of the animation if your animatic doesn't work. So you do your test screening, you make your notes, not necessarily here, but you learn things from your test screening, you go back and make changes if necessary. If everything works out okay, you can move forward to the next stage, which is designing the backgrounds. And this is just the order I like to work in. The backgrounds, having at least a rough background created, helps me in placement of the characters. And you can refer back to your storyboard so that you know kind of what backgrounds are needed, what shots, what angles, what objects might need to be in the background, cars, whatever. Okay, so then once you've got your backgrounds created, you can start animating. And animation is a whole different class. I mean, all of these stages are their own class, really, because there's so much that you can go into each stage. But at this stage, you want to animate your characters, at least a rough animation. And once your animation is cleaned up, then you can color your characters. And I like to do lip syncing after coloring the characters because I put my lips on top of the colored characters. So, lip syncing is a bunch of kind of grunt work, if you ask me. And there's some softwares that are around that will do it, a decent job of it for you, but you're still going to have to clean it up yourself. And you can't do your lip syncing if you haven't recorded your voices. So there is an order to this that we want to try and stay in the correct order. Composite the scenes, which you're taking the animation that you've created and combining it with your backgrounds, and maybe putting your visual effects if there's some smoke or lightning or any of that kind of stuff. That's all going to be composited together. Video editing and composite, they're similar, but they're different. But they almost could be the same column. But there are things that happen in video editing that are different from compositing, so I've got them as two different columns. Once your editing is done, I like to add sound effects and music. And you can, these two kind of go hand in hand because you're still going to be video editing as you're adding sound effects and music. But you might need to create your own sound effects, or you might need to go find sound effects or get music created by a professional musician or a friend or whatever. And so that gives you can give yourself a deadline here to get that done. And then you need to make sure your audio levels are correct, so that's kind of giving you this stage of which might not necessarily be done in a video editor. I do my audio editing in Audacity, a free program. And at that point, once everything's edited and composited together with your sound effects and your audio levels are good, then you can have another test screening. And this time, it should be close to being completed, and you can see a better idea of what's working, what's not working. Maybe some colors are off, or there's all types of things to look for in this screening here because it's close to being done. You'll take notes from that screening, and then you make revisions because I guarantee you're going to have changes to make. And once the revisions are done, ideally you want to do another test screening. I didn't put it here because I didn't want a bunch of columns that are test screenings, but you want to do at least one more test screening before you go to final distribution or final output, because you don't want to have errors in what you send out. So it's kind of like proofreading. You want to do a few rounds of this test screening, revision, test screening, revision, or revision back to whatever column needs to be fixed. Maybe the lip syncing's off on a few things. So you could go back to lip syncing, sync it back up in the video editor, test screen it again. So that's kind of your process. And once you're happy with the final piece, then you're at final distribution or final output. That could just be to YouTube, it could be to a DVD, whatever your output is. And then you're kind of getting into distribution, which is getting that outputted file into the hands of the people that are going to watch it. So, and that could be a whole range of things. But once you've kind of gotten the final file output, you can check this off. And then you're basically done with the animation portion of your project. And then you get into distribution and marketing and all these other things, which is, it's separate work from the animation. And maybe somebody else is going to do that for your project, or the client, that's the client's work, or you've given the animation to the client and now they take it and they're going to run with it. That's my animation production checklist. That's how I use it for a project. And remember to save your changes. And if your file goes back and forth between you and a client, or you and whoever you're working on your project with, just make sure that you guys are on the same page with this document. Print it out, hang it on your wall, and you can see it every day and see, this is what I'm working on right now. I've got 30 days left to write my script, or whatever stage you're in, and that's how you'll get your animation done. Next, we'll see how to use an APC with a client.
Using APC with a client. I want to explain why a client needs to understand these 18 steps. An APC provides a quick visual overview of the work needed to be done. Your client, or potential client, will better understand the scope of work that is involved in animation. This is a good time to decide on a loose timeline for due dates, both for the individual stages and for the final product. This will most likely change and get updated during production. Luckily, the APC is easily updated with a few due dates and check marks. Decide what stages are needed for the project. Maybe they don't need backgrounds, color, music, etc. You can cross those columns out of the APC. Don't forget about the notes. This is a good area for quick notes a client may have during your meeting that you don't want to forget. Did I mention the APC is a fillable form? So you don't even have to print it out. You can fill everything out digitally and send to a client for review or further editing. I still recommend you both printing it out so you can see it every day. But sending the digital file is a good way to keep a paper trail of due dates and notes for the project. Finally, you can give the client their own copy of the APC for them to fill out and give back to you. Maybe they want to figure out due dates later and give you their notes to compare to yours. This way, you can find common ground for getting things done in a timely manner. Here are some of my project tips. Don't schedule all your due dates at the beginning. The reason you don't want to do this is it'll stress you out. Just take it one column at a time. Give yourself a due date for the next stage to be completed. Don't be afraid to make changes to the APC. I kept the APC simplistic so you can print a new one and get back up to speed easily. This way, you're not feeling locked into some big complicated spreadsheet and having to update it or start again as some big chore. Don't overbite the size of your project, especially for your first project. I've made this mistake more than once. When you create a project for the first time, you don't really understand the work that's involved, and trying to make a 20-minute animation is ridiculous. Keep your first project small, so you can have some completed projects under your belt. There will be time to work on your large masterpiece later. I had done a lot of small animations before I decided to take on my first big project, which was TREP, and that ended up being a 22-minute animation. It ended up taking me over 2 years to finish. It's hard enough to get someone to sit through a 3-minute animation, let alone a 20-minute one. So keep it short. Avoid your weaknesses. When I made TREP, which was mostly 2D animation, I had an idea for a 3D shot that I wanted, but I didn't know how to do 3D animation. So I spent hundreds of dollars on a software package and countless hours trying to learn the software so I could create this shot that ended up only being about 5 seconds long. 5 seconds out of a 22-minute animation. I would have been way better off just trying to avoid doing anything 3D, sticking to what I know with 2D, and getting those work hours back. So, avoid your weaknesses. Blog about your progress. Let people know you're working on an animation. So when it's finally done, you'll have an audience waiting to watch your final product. And they can be your biggest fans to help spread your project to a wider audience. Build a mailing list, ASAP. You want to have this built before you even start working on your animation. Spend a few minutes, get the sign-up form completed, add it to your blog or webpage, and by the end of the process, the people that have signed up for your newsletter are going to be your main source of help for spreading the word. And finally, enjoy the process. Animation's a lot of hard work, and if you're not enjoying the actual process of making an animation, what's the point? So have fun and go get started on your animation project. Let's recap. So now you know what an APC is. It's an animation production checklist, in case you already forgot. What we learned. We learned what an APC is, how to use them, and why you should want to use them. We also learned how to use them with clients and potential clients. And I gave a few of my tips for getting started with your own animated project. Hopefully, now you feel more prepared to start working on your own animation. Congratulations on completing this class. I'm really excited to see the beginnings of all your animated projects. Thank you for taking my class on the Animation Production Checklist. This has been Patrick Davidson
the Expat Animator. See you next time.
If you found this useful, click the thumbs up button and don't forget to subscribe. Click this video for more animation tips. Leave any questions you have in the comments below. Thanks for watching and keep on animating.